So your character, Jonathan, is new. How does he fit into the story?
This is not like the traditional Prince Charming in
Tell
tights.
by the hair.
Yeah, the
That's
hair,
right.
he's kind of scruffy. He has a hoodie.
Disney tried to rewrite a classic fairy tale, but instead, it unleashed a full-blown disaster. Because this isn't just a movie flop. This is a full-blown PR nightmare that's spiraled so far out of control, it might take Rachel Zegler's entire career down with it. And she's not going alone. Her co-star, Andrew Burnap, thought this film would launch him into stardom. Instead, his scenes were nearly erased, his character was trashed in press interviews, and now he's caught in the crossfire of a Hollywood implosion. But that's not all. Behind the glitter was a behind-the-scenes war between actors, fans, executives, and even nations. Yes, nations.
This girl took the money and then decided that she wanted to go out there and, you know what, I'm going to take my stand. Well, you should have made that stand before you took the money to promote a film, because that's not in line with your job description.
Right.
So how did Disney go from a billion-dollar studio to a viral laughingstock? How did Rachel Zegler go from rising star to front-page scandal? And why are insiders saying Disney is scrambling to cut ties before the damage gets even worse? It's messy, it's dramatic, it's the kind of chaos you usually only see in tabloids. Except this time, it's all real. Let's rewind. The year was 1937 when Snow White first hit theaters and made history. It was innocent, magical, and very clearly a product of its time. Fast forward to 2024. Rachel Zegler steps in to play Snow White, not as a wide-eyed princess, but as a reimagined, independent woman who doesn't need a prince.
You know, other movie companies are going to look at her and they're going to say box office poison. And a lot of this is due to her behavior leading up to the film's release.
Bold move, right? Except she didn't stop there. During press interviews, she openly called the original love story weird. She said the prince was essentially a stalker, and then she dropped a bomb. Her co-star, Andrew Burnap, who plays the prince, yeah, his entire role might get cut. Who knows, it's Hollywood, baby, she shrugged. And just like that, people went from curious to furious. Who is this new actress mocking the very legacy she was hired to represent? And more importantly, what did Andrew think about being thrown under the bus? Because here's the twist.
If I'm Bob Iger, you know what we're doing? Emergency meeting. We're putting Snow White on hold for 2 years, and guess what?
Smart.
Pay her a couple $1,000,000, go away. We're gonna bring another person to play this role.
Andrew Burnap didn't just get cast. He fought for this role. He trained. He auditioned. He believed this would be his breakout moment. But instead, he got steamrolled before the movie even hit theaters, and that was just the beginning. When Snow White finally hit theaters, there was one thing missing: the audience. Opening weekend numbers were low, but what came next was shocking. The film dropped 66% in its second week, one of the worst performances for any Disney live-action remake ever. And then came the TikToks.
But at the same time, like, I think going forward, they're going to be like, hey, shut up.
Yeah.
Tight-lipped. Otherwise, guess what? We're clawing back some money.
Yeah. This would have done a lot better if they, had a strong male along with her, a prince, if it wasn't about socialism.
Fans, if you could call them that, started filming themselves in nearly empty theaters. And in the most ironic twist of all, Rachel Zegler herself tried to support her own film by attending a showing, but when she walked in, the theater was practically deserted. Her friend posted the whole thing online, calling her name as her face flashed on screen to a room full of empty seats. It was brutal, it was viral, and it only got worse. And here's where the drama really kicks in. Before the controversy, before the backlash, Andrew Burnap believed Snow White would change his life. He trained, he rehearsed, he was handpicked to play the modern prince in one of Disney's most high-profile projects.
It's wrong and backwards and it's not 1937, whatever. That was like her initial spree, and everyone was like, okay, do you want to be Snow White or do you hate Snow White? Do you want to destroy Snow White?
He even described the moment he got the job as surreal. I was outside. I sat down on the ground. And I thought, wow, my life is really going to change from here. It did change, just not how he imagined. As Rachel Zegler began her promotional run for the film, she didn't just distance herself from the original story. She made a point of downplaying Andrew's character over and over again. She called the love story outdated. She described the prince as someone who literally stalks her character.
That said, our primary purpose is to entertain, and where we can entertain responsibly, obviously we try to do that. We try to have a positive impact on the world, but the first thing we need to do is entertain.
And then came the line. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby. It was supposed to be a joke, but for Andrew, it wasn't funny. The fans noticed, the media noticed, and Andrew, he stayed quiet. Publicly, he never fired back, but sources close to the production say he was crushed. His chemistry reads with Rachel were intense. He poured months into this role, and now the spotlight he was promised had turned into a punchline. Worse still, with the film tanking, Andrew's big break became a big embarrassment. But Andrew wasn't the only one caught in Rachel's firestorm, because next, the drama went international. It started with a tweet.
And then they couldn't put dwarfs because this is just so typical of the left. The progressives always finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive.
In August 2024, Rachel Zegler posted support for Palestine. A bold political stance, especially considering the timing. The Snow White trailer had just dropped. The reaction? Immediate and explosive. Why? Because Rachel's co-star Gal Gadot is Israeli. She served in the IDF, and she's been vocal about her support for Israel during the ongoing conflict. Suddenly, this wasn't just about Snow White. It was about global politics, national allegiances, life and death issues. And Rachel, she'd dragged the film right into the middle of it.
I think this is their policies coming back to bite them. They went woke.
Yeah.
She went out and said stuff woke that was going to hurt the film. They couldn't come out and go against her because then you're going after somebody for saying what you say you believe.
Disney executives were furious. They started blowing up Rachel's phone. According to insiders, Mark Platt, the film's producer, personally flew to New York to talk her down. It didn't help. Tensions between Gal and Rachel reached an all-time high. Insiders described them as ice cold to one another. And while Gal remained professional, she pulled back from promoting the film. She skipped major press events. She skipped the European premiere in Spain. Rachel, meanwhile, doubled down.
They're leaning in.
Or what?
They're leaning into woke. Hardcore.
They're petrified
Yeah.
of some kind of backlash. I mean, you see with Disney now. I mean, Disney, one of the most gay-friendly companies.
She continued referencing empowerment, activism, and her belief in using her voice. But the damage was already done. Behind closed doors, Disney execs were scrambling, not just to manage the narrative, but to protect Gal Gadot. She began receiving unaliving threats, serious ones. Disney had to hire additional security. And still, Rachel didn't seem to grasp the impact of what she'd triggered. But just when you thought it couldn't get worse, it got political. Really political.
So yeah, my agent would have punched me in the face if I was up there saying some stupid shit. What an investment.
Just weeks after the Gal Gadot controversy, Rachel lit another fire. This time, it was aimed squarely at Donald Trump and his supporters. In an emotionally charged Instagram story, Rachel wrote, "May Trump supporters and Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace." But she didn't stop there. She went on a full-blown rant, calling Trump's followers a deep, deep sickness. She accused them of subscribing to a false sense of security, masculinity, intelligence, patriotism, and humanity. And she ended it all with 2 words that would come back to haunt her: F Trump. You already know what happened next. The internet exploded. Conservative influencers called for Disney to fire her immediately. MAGA supporters threatened to boycott the film altogether. And Disney? They were now stuck in a PR hurricane. They had just finished dealing with Gal Gadot's security threats. And now half of their American fan base was demanding Rachel's head on a silver platter. Executives scrambled. Another emergency meeting was called. And again, Mark Platt was flown in to have a sit-down with Rachel. It didn't work, so Disney brought in outside help, a social media crisis expert. Within 48 hours, Rachel posted a public apology. "Hi everyone. I would like to sincerely apologize for the election post I shared on Instagram last week. I let my emotions get the best of me. Hatred and anger have caused us to move further and further away from peace and understanding. And I am sorry I contributed to the negative discourse." She continued, "This week has been emotional for so many of us, but I firmly believe everyone has the right to their opinion, even when it differs from my own. I am committed to contributing positively toward a better tomorrow. But was it too little, too late?" As the chaos escalated, whispers started to circulate. Rachel Zegler was no longer just under fire. She might be fighting back. Insiders claimed she was preparing to sue Disney for wrongful termination and discrimination. Others said her legal team was already demanding a review of her canceled press appearances. Disney remained silent, but actions spoke louder than words. Rachel was quietly pulled from interviews. Her name disappeared from promotional materials, and the studio began to focus press coverage on Gal Gadot instead. Industry sources say Disney had reached its limit. They were already considering pausing Snow White sequels or replacing Rachel entirely. Executives reportedly discussed a payout offer to make her go away quietly, And Rachel, she wasn't going quietly. The question now wasn't if she'd be removed, but how? And just like that, a fairy tale remake turned into a full-blown war. But wait, it's easy to pin all the blame on Rachel Zegler. But this disaster exposed something much bigger than one actress with a loose filter. It exposed a massive identity crisis at Disney. In the last few years, Disney has tried to walk a very fine line, staying culturally relevant, appealing to younger progressive audiences, and keeping its traditional, family-friendly base happy. But the Snow White fiasco revealed what happens when that balancing act collapses. Because the truth is, this wasn't just a Rachel Zegler problem. This was a Disney problem. Executives approved the casting. They approved the messaging. They funded and promoted the entire rollout. And they stayed silent until the backlash became too loud to ignore. So what happens next? Does Disney backtrack and stick to safer, nostalgia-fueled content? Do they double down on modern retellings and risk alienating more fans? Or do they take a long, hard look at the disconnect between their legacy and their future? And what about Rachel? Is there a comeback in her future? Can an apology, even a perfectly worded one, undo months of damage? Because let's be honest, Hollywood is full of redemption arcs, but it's also full of doors that close fast and forever. One thing's for sure, Snow White was supposed to be magical. Instead, it became a mirror reflecting a studio unsure of its direction, a star unprepared for the spotlight, and a fan base tired of being told what their favorite stories should mean. And as the saga continues to unfold, only one question remains. Can Disney and Rachel Zegler recover from this? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Do you think Disney made a huge mistake? Was Rachel treated unfairly? Or is this just the beginning of a bigger Hollywood wake-up call? Hit that like button, subscribe, and don't miss the next story. Because in this town, the drama never sleeps.